Hello, bSQL developers. Thanks for joining me today. We're going to be going over a tutorial on how to use and actually access our multi-version data. So, block points, multi-version database, what does that mean? How do I use that? And I'm going to run you through a couple example queries that'll help you better understand this idea. So, today we're going to be using this Lyft database. And this Lyft database is used to track bike rentals in the Bay Area. So you can see that we have a stations blockchain. Those keep track of the stations in the Bay Area, an arrivals and departures log. So we're going to start and always make sure to run use. So now we're in the Lyft database. And first thing I'm going to do is select the station ID. I'm going to select it from stations, and I'm going to put a limit on it or a filter because I do not want to return all the values. So let's go ahead and give that a run. So a multi-version database, what we're doing in this query is we're just selecting from the current version. And a key thing to understand here is that the past versions of this database do not affect my queries or my query time, do not have a performance impact on queries on the current state. So basically, works just like a normal SQL language. If you were interacting it like a normal SQL language, you would only be using that current state, like normal SQL. But what if we actually want to dive into that history of the database? So this time around, we're going to select the station ID. So we're going to write an identical query from, and instead of selecting from the current state of stations, we're actually going to select from the lifetime of stations. And we're just going to put a filter on that as well. So what this does, and this lifetime keyword specifies, is, hey, I don't want the current state of stations. I want every single record from stations. So we're going to go ahead and give that a run. So multi-versions, full record access. We can see this Berkeley station, that's what BK stands for. This Berkeley station has multiple versions. This one does as well. So we're just going to get everything. And I think one of the best ways to actually illustrate this is by updating that current state of the system, which is represented by this select statement, and see how that updates our lifetime query, our time travel query. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at this output I had, right? So we can see that these are the stations that exist in the current system. So I'm going to go ahead and change that, and I'm going to discontinue from stations based off of the station ID. And let's pick the first value. So we're going to discontinue that BKB7. So we're going to go ahead and give this query a run. As we can see, it executed successfully. So now when I go ahead and I select from my current state, like you would think that station no longer exists, makes sense. So what if I want to go looking for the station? Now that it doesn't exist in the current state, I want to bring that up because maybe I want to figure out why that station, doesn't exist anymore, why it went down. I want to run some type of analytics. So what I could do is I'm going to take this lifetime query and I'm going to modify it a bit. So I'm going to select everything from the lifetime of stations, and we're going to switch this up a little bit. We're going to select star, and we're also going to include this sys timestamp built-in column. So I'm going to select all my user-defined columns, my sys timestamp column from the lifetime of stations. But we're going to apply this special filter that is unique to the bSQL programming language. We're going to say it's where discontinued stations. So where records are discontinued in stations, this will be satisfied. So I'm going to go ahead and give this a run. So we're looking for things that no longer exist. Give it a run, see what we get. Okay, great. As you can see, since we discontinued BKB7, it now exists in our discontinued records. And it's kind of weird to think, okay, discontinued records, how do I access things that no longer exist? Well, the thing is, they do exist. And as you can see, we got these null values. This is because really is just a marker record. So we call it a tombstone record. And we use it to mark that that primary key no longer exists in the current state, but you can still access it as a discontinued value. So this is some pretty powerful stuff. This will allow you to do a lot of cool things with your language. We can use a lifetime keyword and discontinued keyword in combinations to do some other things like finding the number of rides for stations that no longer exist, or finding how long these stations existed before they were discontinued. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you got something out of this tutorial, and keep on coding.